Welcome back, coaches. It's a football coaching podcast. You probably sat through an intro already, and I don't apologize for that. I wanted to do it twice.
We're not going to do a separate intro, are we?
I don't know.
No, we don't do high production
On the move?
post production work. No, look.
Touche. Shim?
We spend
No
more
need.
time. Yeah, we spend more time setting this camera up than we spend setting up any podcast that we do. So that's our extra work. We got all this scenery. Hopefully these people don't come out, with their morning coffee and their underwear.
That would be great.
Looking at their beautiful view of the indoors. That's not really outdoors.
Outdoors, it's not indoors, but it is.
But it looks outdoors, and so I grab my jacket every time I walk outside, and I realize it's 70 degrees.
If you've never been to the Gaylord Resort,
Gaylord
right?
Opryland. Yeah.
Opryland Resort in Nashville. It is wonderful. It's my second time. Came for a thing with my wife's company a while back. So we've thoroughly enjoyed it. AFCA has been a blast. I know we said it on the last episode too, but every day is a new adventure here. So a lot more exhibit floor. I don't know what you're calling that, but the sales floor. A lot more down there today. Just talking.
The exhibit hall. Yeah, it's pretty crowded. I met up with Ricky Kuhn, who's been on the podcast, and off to our left is not our current left, but where we were standing talking was the current strength coach for Colorado doing a clinic session, on some strength stuff. I paid no attention to it. I have my strength program, but
right.
it's kind of funny because they're just they're sitting right over there, there they are doing their thing. So it's interesting in that regard.
Yeah.
But winding down for the high school side of things, I think there's a little bit of high school this afternoon, probably more for the local coaches who are close, because I think it starts at 3 o'clock, so coaches that are close enough to pop over after school and get into a few things. There's nothing in the morning or during the day for high school. And even we were kind of joking about, over lunch with Kenny the other day, joking about the high school panel that I think is coming up. Is 3 college coaches.
3 guys who do not know how to coach high school ball.
Yeah, so they might. I don't know the resumes and stuff, but it's. I was talking to another college coach, and just without thinking, I said, I don't go to any of these, and many of these clinics here, because I got 165-pound, 5'8" guard, and we don't kick, slide, punch much with that kid, right?
Right.
To get run over slowly is the coaching that he gets. So it's nothing against the stuff that they do, but I've found that we can always, and we know from having college coaches on the podcast, we can always get an idea.
Yeah.
But as far as sitting down and getting a lot of information, I prefer high school guys as much as possible. And quite frankly, where I'm at now, I'd like to spend more time with youth coaches. Some coaches who have done got it figured out at the youth level, because I think that there's for one, we've been working with more and more youth coaches. And so getting ideas from, we obviously have all the feedback from the youth coaches that I work with.
Yeah.
But hearing from other youth coaches running different schemes and how they teach and install and do all that is something I'd be interested in coming up, going forward. So I'm actually trying to go the opposite direction.
It doesn't matter what college they're at. You see the GAs even running around here who don't know a lick of football.
Sure.
Most likely.
Sure.
But they're not going to listen to a guy who knows football, because they have one guy they need to be listening to right now,
Well,
and it's
yeah.
whatever their coordinator is, or their. So it's I completely get where you're coming from. You might as well go down the level where they're like, I don't have information, I don't have a guy teaching me ball, I'm one of 3 dads coaching this team, we need some help.
Yeah.
And then work that into, hey, he might promote to a high school rank at some time, right? I had coaches reached out to me this year about, I'm moving from one area to another, I'd love to get in the high school ranks, and thanking us for the podcast, because it has helped them there. So
yeah.
there's
one of the
path.
things for us is we're working with more and more middle school, because that is the natural progression for a lot of coaches. Not all, but a lot of places are going to take their youngest guys on staff and give them the middle school program.
Right.
And so, being able to say to somebody, which this wasn't hard because we do the same thing, and we have a middle school program. Now, our current middle school coach is an experienced high school head coach who's kind of, taking a step back, and his son's at that age, so he's coaching it. But that isn't hard for us because we already do it. But very much so, and we already talked about it on the previous episode, the name tells you everything you need to know. If you're thinking about coming to the AFCA, the AFCA is a convention, as opposed to Glazier clinics or your local clinics that you can go to. Or JDFB coaching systems, where this is, you're not. If you come here, there's an opportunity to learn a lot of ball, but you got to find these guys to talk to, right? You
bump into them, and then you're into scheme all of a sudden. And how did you guys do this? And absolutely. And
one of the things you realize is they don't mind. They don't mind if you're in one of the local establishments at night. They don't mind you walking up and saying, "Hey, I'm such and such." Especially helps if you're a school that's in their recruiting area. So certainly I would say that and I don't know where it is next year, but if you're a school in Tennessee, and this year it's Nashville, if you're a school in Tennessee, high school, then certainly you should come, because it's not a long way to go, and you're going to have the coach. All the high schools, all the colleges are here. So it's very easy to start a conversation with somebody who would be recruiting your area because they want to talk to you, and then get that clinic element. But it's by having specific, hey, how are you defending RPS? That's the one everybody starts with.
How you defending RPS?
How you defending RPS? To which it's funny, we talked about before, the older coaches are much less creative in that. They still say things like run man coverage because it still works, and the basic principles of option football still work. And often that is disappointing to the guys who are asking the question, because they want the silver bullet. They want the trick. They want the magic that they think some guy who shut down some big college, they shut down some college program that runs great RPOs. I remember watching Baker Mayfield running them at Oklahoma. It was like one of the first schools that was really, really, really good at them. And somebody shut him down, and it was like, I don't remember who, and it was like,
probably Dave Aranda at Baylor, because he's
might have been
absolute genius on the defensive side.
And it was like, everybody wants the special sauce, and it was like there wasn't any. Sometimes the genius is in understanding that the gimmicks aren't there.
Right.
There's some things that you can do. There's a big opportunity to learn here, but understand and I think you definitely should. It's an experience. I think you should hopefully find one that's close to you. I know they're usually not, they're not in Montana or anything. So you got to.
Last year was Charlotte, and then
was Charlotte last year?
Yeah, okay. I can't remember where next year's is. I think it's on the West Coast though, somewhere. So
they deserve to get one every decade or so. I probably will not be attending that. But anyway. Yeah, so
enough about AFCA.
We're going to talk about hiring coaches, which is a lot of that going on here.
There is. So we've had some questions, and I have questions, honestly. Still pretty new to all this. And I work within my coaching network, like who's going to do the coordinating jobs, right? Because we're all applying for head jobs, and then it's like, if I get it here, you'll come over and be my OC or my DC. If you don't get a job, and if you do, I'll come over there. So what we talk about today is just. When we're promoting a coordinator, and we want to go a couple paths here, and I'm going to promote a coordinator sometimes because I'm head coach and I can't do both sides of the ball, or I shouldn't. Probably don't have that kind of time, right? And so I need someone else watching game tape from the defensive perspective while I'm working on the offense. Or if you're a defensive guy and a head coach, fine, hire an OC, right? Hire or promote from within. So there is that. We want to talk about promoting a guy from within to just cover a job and setting him up for success. But then also, making a hire, realizing that is the key to success, is making him a coordinator and then promoting that. Right. So I guess the first question is just, how are you, a coach on staff, promoting him to his first time ever as a coordinator? How are you making him successful as a head coach? What are you doing to make him have a security blanket, but also the freedom to move and make mistakes and learn, but also you can't get fired because of his screw ups?
Yeah, check out join.joedanielfootball.com. Buy my stuff.
Paying the bills.
Don't forget that.
We're talking about.
Don't forget that this is marketing. Okay?
Absolutely.
We don't have sponsors. We sponsor it ourselves. Athletic Speed and Movement. So the first thing I think is the mindset of the head coach, and that's the first thing that I work with a lot of our coaches, especially who are on small staffs, who are on struggling programs. What a lot of people don't realize is that in a lot of schools, in a lot of places, it is hard, very hard, to hire high school assistant football coaches, especially experienced ones. We've talked before about, a lot of schools don't give you jobs to fill. They don't say, okay, we're going to open up a PE position for you. We're going to open up a history position for you. They'll say, we need a math teacher. And it's like, well, that's great. We need a science teacher. We need an English teacher. It's great. There's nobody who does that coaches football.
Every football coach I know of that went to college got a kinesiology. Yeah. Right? Every one of them has a kinesiology degree.
History and PE. And that's, you can usually squeeze somebody into one of the, special education roles. In Virginia, we could do that on a provisional. And I don't know, everywhere's different, but so a lot of coaches got jobs that way. You could squeeze somebody in. Military gives them some different ways to get in. But science, math, we're not normal.
Right.
Like we're kind of the exception to the rule. And I was a history major. I just went through when I couldn't get a job back in Richmond when I came back from Iowa. I went and took the math practice 2 and passed it and got math certificate. That was the only way I got it. And that just gave me that extra deal. But it's very hard to hire. So we'll have the conversation about hiring the guy and giving him the keys to the Porsche and letting him go. We'll talk about that later. First thing is, when you don't have the ability to hire those guys, they're not on your staff. You've got the guys that you've got. They're not really experienced, or maybe you just got to hire a guy out of high school, or a guy out of college. It's his first year, and he could be a good football coach. He's got some experience, but he's not, ready to take over. What I run into with a lot of coaches in that situation is they say, I'm going to call it all, or can I call it all, or should I call it all? And the very simple answer is no. You have to understand, as the head football coach, you have another role as head football coach. If you weren't the head football coach, could I put one guy up in the box and let him coordinate both sides of the ball? Maybe, because all he has to do is coach football. I do the head football coach stuff. So maybe that works. It's kind of the if you were going to coordinate, one thing I would say is if you were going to coordinate, I know we say it's a BS title, but if you are going to be a coordinator on either side of the ball as a head coach, you better have an assistant head coach. Right. So now we're talking, okay, you need somebody else on your staff who's got that experience, who's at that level. As a head coach, I was fortunate that I had 2 other head coaches on my staff, and one of whom had former head coaches, and one who had been an athletic director. And so they could handle some of those things for me, and I was the offensive coordinator. I could trust them professionally to handle things and let me coach the offense. But to coach both sides is going to be such a burden on you. Even if in name only, you give that somebody, again, don't waste titles. Titles are good for people to have. So even if in name only, you give somebody that role and you do some of the things we're going to talk about where you basically have total control, give them that title so that they have the responsibility. Look, if their responsibility is drawing up scout cards or tagging the film, like that's still something you don't have to do.
Right.
And so what if they're not really, running their stuff? Fill out the practice plan every week for me, that kind of stuff. So the very first thing is you need, and you absolutely can, hire someone to be your coordinator, even though nobody on your staff is currently coordinator material. We talk about this with our players too. We talk about it with our squad leaders. I don't like captains. Captains are permanent. Like, Derek Jeter's a captain. Nobody had to worry about it. Hey, Derek Jeter's going to be our captain. Okay. Like,
That'll do.
you don't have to worry about Derek Jeter screwing that up. You don't have to worry about Tom Brady screwing that up. Alexander Ovechkin is the captain of the Caps, Washington Capitals. Okay, we're not concerned that he's going to do something ridiculous. Every 17-year-old, I'm concerned that they're going to do something ridiculous. No matter what no names, no anything, only a few people would know of this. One of the best kids I ever coached did one of the dumbest things I've ever seen and basically shot everything to hell in a day. And you can't trust a kid not
Right. They're
to
still
do
kids.
something stupid. That's what they do. So I don't love captains being appointed, but we use squad leaders. We make it very clear, and it's if you're a JDFP coaching systems client, or you do the trial access at join.joedanielfootball.com, so I'm going to get that plug in one way or the other. Whether we skip it or not, I'm still the quick start guide that I send you a personalized video and tell you about when you sign up and you fill out your kickoff registration, has a video in there that is all about the things that we do to build leadership, and one of them is the squad leaders. And squad leaders are chosen, and squad leaders can be added and they can be removed at any time. It is a job, but it's not. I'm not giving you power.
Right.
But when you give guys that role, guys that are marginally ready for it, they're on the cusp of leadership. If you wait for them to move into the leadership role on their own, you're going to wait a long time. If you put them in that leadership role because they're almost there and you push them out of the nest, they'll start flapping the wings,
right?
And they'll figure it out. And it's the same thing here. You don't have any coaches on your staff who are ready to be the coordinator. I'm not naming you the offensive coordinator and telling you to go develop your own system. First of all, nobody should be developing their own system. It's already been done. And you don't need to
out there.
write your
Just
playbook.
go find it.
Just go get it and then make it yours over the course of time. Somebody will give you the foundation. JoeDanielFootball.com will give you the foundation at join.joedanielfootball.com. You'll get the foundation, offense, defense, whatever. And then it will become yours over time. It always does.
Right.
And it becomes yours because you've got your own players, you've got your own staff, you've got your own schedule. You play 6 wing T teams. It looks different than a guy who plays 9 spread option teams and a guy who plays 7 air raids. Like, all of our defenses are going to develop differently in that situation. Your offense, if you've got a 6'5" laser rocket arm quarterback, it's going to look different than I've got a runner, or I've just got a good kid who's a good decision maker, who hands the ball off and shows up every day, and he's a squad leader. So it's going to develop on its own. But you've got to give somebody that title and that responsibility, how much responsibility you give them, I would make it very clear up front when you give somebody that title. We had a conversation, we had a podcast talking about adult conversations, and I think we were talking about firing coaches.
Yeah, talking about yes.
Earlier this season 15, and this is an adult conversation. I would like to promote you to the offensive coordinator role or the defensive coordinator role. However, you are not ready to be the offensive coordinator.
So we had a little break in talk there. Battery went dead.
Just a little.
Recording on the move, and I probably should have troubleshooted some more of this, but it's okay.
Yeah,
it happens. Battery went dead.
We got all.
We were talking about coordinators are never ready when you want to bring one up, but getting him that job so that he gets the experience, it takes some weight off of you.
Yeah. You want to find somebody that can. I mean, obviously, you don't want to just give it to anybody, but even if you've got somebody that's got a year or two of experience, but they're responsible,
right?
And they can. Again, I think we were talking about when we got cut off, having that adult conversation of,
yes,
you are not ready for this position, and here's what you need to understand. Somebody is going to have this role. It could be me. It could be you. It could be someone else. I think that as far as the staff that we have right now, you are the best choice for this position.
Right.
But not because of your expansive knowledge. You're being promoted to this position because of your ability, because of your maturity, and because of your ability to follow direction. And so, no, you are not going to create your own playbook. No, you are not going to be the guy designing. You're going to be there in a game plan and everything. But one of the things that I do, just with any coordinator, really first year, is I would give a coordinator a call sheet that has 10 calls on it. And by the way, I'll give the same thing to me. A lot of situations. But that call sheet is, here's what you've got. And we're going to talk, and ultimately I have the final say as the head coach in what goes on this call sheet. And in the game, this is what you have available to you. Now, can we make halftime adjustments? Absolutely. We can do all that's part of coaching. But coming into the game, this is what you've got available. And that's what we're going to go with. You're not going to run a complex package with the new guy.
Right.
So that's what I would do. But I would make that hire or make that promotion to that person with the agreement that this is the situation. And some people don't like that. Some people's ego won't allow them to have that. To them, a coordinator coordinates. And sometimes you have to explain, this is just a title.
Yeah.
The coordinating is being done, like, I don't need co-defensive coordinator in my title. I'm the head football coach and the offensive coordinator. But that's the deal. We're co-defensive coordinators. You're signaling in. We're going to sit down and discuss as a staff what goes on this call sheet. You're signaling it in. You're handling that because I'm talking to my offensive lineman. I'm talking to my quarterback. I'm doing head coach stuff. And again, this is if you are the coordinator on the other side. But at least I'm doing head coach stuff. I'm managing the staff. So when you make that promotion, I don't think that any coach, unless it's absolutely impossible, should be coordinating both sides and be the head coach. But if you promote somebody who's not ready, you have that conversation with them. You are not ready, here's the deal.
Yeah.
And you give up a certain amount of control, but not all of it.
Yeah, there's too much. We always talk about the science and the art of everything, right? There's a science and art of leadership, of coaching, whatever. And you're going to miss out on what you bring, to the art side, right? If you have the 4-2-5 defense and all the other ones as well, but you're you could go operate as a productive DC, right? I feel like I could step in and be a DC wherever I was needed. I've learned the offensive side where I think I could do that, but I still have my own art on how I would run whatever it is. I can give a guy the science. I can give a guy that base call sheet that you're talking about, but he can't call it the way that I do.
No.
And to expect that is ridiculous. So what you're saying, you talk to him, it's a limited role. Yes, you're making the play calls, but I could override you at any time, right? A situation pops up and you brought me all the formations. You brought me all the tendencies. You brought that to me because you watched film on it, and we talked about it as a staff. So I might recognize that and you haven't because you're new at this. Hey, you need to be calling this in this situation right now. I don't know what you're about to signal in, but this is your call. So, and maybe in the middle of a game, early on, I know it's a whirlwind. I know that because I DC'd my first year and it was a whirlwind. But for them, they may be overwhelmed to where with some experience, you can be talking to your O-line and be like, hey, I recognize that, run this, right? So it's just almost like intuition. You got that gut that they don't have yet.
You can sit down and you can spend time watching film. And, we talk about in our game film masterclass, watching the film, and we talk about actually in our offensive play caller system, defensive play caller system as well. You should call the game before the game.
Yeah.
If you've got scout film on them, look at their formation, look at the situation, and make the decision on what you want to call. And we can sit down and do that. Another thing that I've done is in a scrimmage, if you have those available where you're at, in the scrimmage I would call, we'll say we had a jamboree. I'll call one of the jamborees and you watch.
Right.
And
just see how it's done.
See what the process.
See what pairs up well.
Because
there's a ton
I can jump in and run our 4-2-5 or 3-4 or 3-3 any day. No problem. I can jump in and call it. If that DC gets struck by lightning in the middle of the game, I call both sides. I don't need a call sheet, but I've done it for a long time. So you can step in and kind of show, here's how. One of the hard things is the process between plays, choosing the play call, signaling it in, getting everybody looking at you, getting that play call in, looking at the offense, from the offensive side, offensive standpoint, it's knowing where to go on that call sheet because of the situation, knowing how I'm going to look at the defense, where I'm going to find the numbers matchups, where I'm going to find the space, where I'm going to find the leverage, and how I'm going to go and attack those different areas, and how I make that call, how I communicate that to my quarterback, how I monitor what's happening as they go to the line, because that call goes in, I'm always ready. We're not a check with me team, but I'm loud.
Right.
I yell check, 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 check.
Be checking it real quick.
We're checking it. And he knows how to look over. One of the things that I like about our numbers system that a lot of coaches struggle with because they're so used to names, one of the reasons I went with the numbers, and a lot of our coaches would change it to their own terminology, and that's fine. But in our offensive system, we go check, check, 56. It doesn't mean anything to them.
Right.
And I'm not going to do it 18 times. And so I can check the call and just call it the number. I can change the H-back alignment. I can change the numbers now. I can go check, check, 324. Well, that's going to move the H-back to a 3, and we're going to run power right.
Right.
But there's no way that they're going to go, 324, right? So I have the ability to do that and show the coordinator in a live situation how to do that. And the other thing that's part of that conversation is this is not permanent. You're not going to have control right now, but I expect you to be learning.
Yes.
And I expect by week 6 for you to have more control. And I expect for you by week 10 to have more control. In the playoffs to have more control. And next season
you might be the dude, right?
You'll be the dude. Now, you're still going to be running my stuff. But if you're hiring somebody who's only got if you're giving this position to somebody who's not ready, your stuff is probably all they know.
Yeah.
Really. So that's how I would work it, and I think that everybody should. There's no reason that you should be calling both sides, and I think it's possible, if at all possible, you want to try to get somebody doing offense and defense. That said, I would probably always, unless I had the right coaches, I would probably maintain control of one of them.
Yeah, I know there's
in a small school like we have. Well, it's not a lot of times we have 3 coaches and staff. Last year with an anomaly, we had 5 actual experienced coaches.
there is that question of like, when do you hire 2 coordinators? When do I just be the head coach and make sure I always think it's size, Maybe experience. If my staff is 5, but I have a state champion OC and a state champion DC from different programs, and they want to come be my guys, I would be an idiot to not let them rock and roll.
I would go look to make a hire every year. I would never, if you are coordinating one side of the ball as a head coach, I would never sit back. And by the way, if you have 2 coordinators, I'm going to guarantee you that one of them is interviewing or applying. So you should always be on the lookout for the next guy. And so I would never not be looking to replace or to hire a coordinator. I would never be satisfied with, all right, I'm the offensive coordinator and it's going to be that way forever. You should be looking for offensive coordinators. Maybe your defensive coordinator leaves. Now you're going to be the defense coordinator because you just hired an offensive coordinator. It's like, we always got to have these things in place.
So let's kind of look at the other side of the coins. We talked about, promoting within a guy that's not ready. You're just taking something off of your plate. Mm-hmm. The other side is maybe I have some guys that are ready. Okay, they've been under me for a long time. Mm-hmm. They know, maybe they've been my middle linebacker coach, but I need a DC. They know all the calls. They know what they've been teaching for 4 or 5 years. It's time to promote from within. Or maybe you hire from the outside, but selecting that other coordinator opposite, or maybe we're in a position we're ready to make that second coordinator, right? So I can just be the head coach, but I have experienced guys. Like, what does that look like? What am I looking for? How do a coach do I know that situation is the right situation?
Well, I think that's very easy. You've got a coach who's proven their work ethic, who's proven that they're trustworthy, who's proven that this is the right thing. When you're hiring from within, that's a very easy decision.
Right.
It's kind of like when you're applying for head coaching jobs, that a lot of those jobs, and the same is true if you try to apply for college jobs like all these guys are, a lot of those jobs are going to be filled by somebody that they already know.
Right.
And they just put it out there because they have to. A lot of those head coaching jobs are going to be filled by someone internally. And so that's because they've already got a trust of that person and what they're going to do. Those are easy hires. Internal hires, I would say if you have reservations about an internal hire, you're probably looking at what we were talking about before.
Yeah.
But we're talking about giving somebody the keys to the Porsche. I've been running this thing for 3 years. You've been my offensive line coach. You've been my quarterbacks coach. You've been my linebacker coach. You know the system. I trust that you know the system now. I'm going to let you put your spin on it too, but the system is the system.
Yeah.
And this is who we are. And I've established this system. There's nothing for you to do but not break it and then put your own spin on it. And over time, you're going to develop. And when we're ready to do that, that's an easy hire. You know that it's the right thing. If you're not sure, then you're in the previous category. If there's any doubt at all, you're in the previous category. And when he's getting a call sheet and he's getting limited and he's getting told, I think you're the right guy for this role, but it might not be the role you think it is. Yeah. That's how I would go about that internally.
So I think one of the hardest things for a coach is, it's kind of what you said earlier. I've had my system in place. And so I dealt with this year at the freshman level, right? I was brought in as a freshman DC. I didn't have a single word of conversation with my freshman head coach. I'd only talked to the varsity guy. And so it took us a while to mold. And in fact, we never truly got there with only 8 or 9 games on the schedule. And I came in way late. It's just not time. But that, is it my system or your system? And at what point are you okay with, hey, I'm bringing you in because I trust what you're doing. It is your system. I want nothing to do. I am hands off. Versus, we're going to run the pistol power offense. I'm bringing you in. You're going to run this, or a variation of it. Once again, the science and the art is still separated here.
Well, it's very easy. If I bring you in, if I hire you from the outside, and it's one of the things that's hard, and at the freshman level this happens, and it's just a thing. One of the things that's hard is to hire from the outside and then tell them you're going to run this. That's hard.
Yeah,
and I would
it doesn't
caution
settle
against that. Now again, at the freshman level, that's the situation. You don't have guys that you're working their way up the ladder at the freshman level. Generally, you made for a couple of years, but in most schools, and you're at a very big school, so maybe a little bit different. In most schools, if you're coaching the middle school, you're coaching the JV, and you're planning on you want to move up, you're going to move up pretty quickly. You're not going to be the offensive line coach for 3 years on the freshman team and work your way up to OC. They get 3 coaches. That's
right.
it. So from a varsity standpoint, I would really caution against hiring somebody from the outside and then saying immediately you're the coordinator, because I don't have that trust of you yet. To where when I'm doing an internal hire, even though you may not have all the knowledge, I've got a year or 2 under my belt with you having the trust. So that's a situation where I'm maybe promoting a guy from being the freshman coach to being, the varsity coordinator. But the really easy way to tell what your role is, and a lot of people do this wrong, and this is why we have the platinum level in JDFB. The really easy way to tell if the role you're being hired for is to run your defense or run their defense is they hand you the defense. Say, this is what we run. If I hire you and I have that adult conversation with you, and this is where coaches go wrong. They don't have that adult conversation.
Right.
And they say, this is what I want you to run, but they don't clearly communicate everything you need to know. If you run a JDFB system and you bring up a coach and you say, I want you to run JDFB 425 defense system, you should hire them. You should have a platinum account, which allows you to add up to 100 coaches. And I don't know why you have more than 100 coaches on your staff. Allows you to add up to 100 coaches. And then you say, module 1, and we're going to meet. Module 2, and we're going to meet. Module 3, and we're going to put this together. I'm going to hand you the system. And how well you take to that may dictate how much power that you have in that system, but I'm going to hand it to you. It's going to be very clear this is what you're running. If I hire you from outside or internally, but usually an internal hire, you're going to run
whatever's in place.
What's in place. Because that's why I'm giving you the job. Now, you're going to put your own take on it, depending on how much faith I have in you. But there's no reason with an internal hire to change all the terminology, change all the, change what the kids are already doing. If I hire you outside, if you are getting hired as a coordinator position, you should be interviewing and asking those questions and saying, how much control am I going to have? And you should know. And again, a lot of times we get in a situation where we just want a job and we get hired and we don't ask all the questions that we should ask.
Right.
And we know from our episode with Chris 4 that we should be asking those questions. We don't ask all the questions we should ask. And this happens in every job. This happens in every job. We don't ask the questions because we just want to get the job. God forbid we offend somebody with one of those questions. And they go, man,
he's not the guy.
Yeah. We interviewed 3 guys and I liked all 3 of them. But 2 of them just said they'd do whatever and they don't care. And this guy asked if he was going to be able to call his own plays. We don't want to hire him. Why not? That guy asked the questions. But we don't, we're afraid to do that. So
yeah,
we can run into a problem where we don't ask. We should know. It should be clearly communicated if I want you to run my system, you're going to know exactly what my system is. I'm going to teach it to you. I'm going to teach you every detail that you need to know of. I'm going to do, Bill Mountjoy for years did this with us, still does. Bill taught us, starting in 2006 or whatever, the base run plays, the base formations. And then for the last 18 years now, whatever it's been, we're pulling little pieces that Bill wants us to have.
Right.
He doesn't want us to have everything right away because we'll screw it up. Dale doesn't want us to have everything right away because we'll screw it up. I've often toyed with dripping more of my content the system. I don't, but these other guys, he's a little different, but I don't pay Bill for his information. I would like to drip that information because a lot of our coaches screw it up. Right? They try to do too much too fast despite all the warnings. And our coaches that have the most success, and this is just flat out honest, is the coaches that have the most success come in and they go, all right, base 4-2, cover 3, season 1. Boring, vanilla, some linebacker blitzes, some cover 0, edge blitz, single edge stunts, maybe Tiger Cat, base package. Year 2, maybe I work in a multiple front, 3-4, 3-3, something like that. But they stay really, really simple early on. I'm going to give you the things that you need to run our system. If I hire you to run an outside system, I'm going to ask you before I hire you in our interview, teach me your system.
Right. I want to see that's like,
if they hire
better be
you and
a
nobody
system.
says teach me your system, then they probably don't want you to run that system.
Right.
And again, we get lots of coaches coming looking for advice on getting their first coaching job or even getting their second coaching job. But they're at that level where it's an assistant coach position. And they go, what should I study?
Football.
Them.
Yeah. Football, right?
Nobody cares. You should be studying, how to run drills, how to communicate with players, these are the things you should be studying, because when I'm hiring an assistant coach for that role, who's got a year of experience or 2 years of experience, I don't give a crap what scheme he knows, because he's not going to run it.
Yeah.
Right.
Need some fundamentals, whatever position you're hiring for.
Well, I want somebody who's confident. I want somebody who's ultimately, I'd like to have somebody who knows what they don't know, but it's very unlikely to get somebody who's 24 years old who knows that. It's highly unlikely.
Unfortunately, you're right.
And usually the normal path, some guys come in already thinking they know everything in year 1. They're dangerous. A lot of guys come in scared to death in year 1, and they're fine, but you have to know that by year 3 or 4, they're going to think they know everything. And then it's I forget what it's called.
I'm trying to think of it too.
Dunning-Kruger.
Dunning-Kruger effect,
Yes.
that's right.
And then eventually they get to year 10, and they go, year
crap.
10, we were talking earlier, I don't think that I really knew what I was doing and was a good football coach until about 15 years in. And we have tools like Football Coaching 101 to try to flatten that learning curve, but it's a very, very real thing. One of the things Football Coaching 101 does is it immediately establishes you don't know what you think you know.
Yeah.
And here's 18 hours of what you need to know. So what I want to hire is somebody who knows what they don't know. I hate hiring a guy that's in his 3rd year, but they're usually very hungry. And if we can kind of rein it in, it's going to be great.
If you don't know what the Dunning-Kruger is, just look it up. Essentially, in your very first impression, usually first year to 3 of football coaching or any task.
Anything, absolutely.
It works
anything.
with literally anything.
Everything. It's like
you
the 80-20.
think you
It's like the
figured
80-20 principle. It's absolutely universal.
Yeah, you think you know everything, and then you quickly fall off what they call it, the cliff of stupidity or despair or whatever, and then you're down in the bottoms going, holy crap, there's so much to this. I assume most people, it's when they hit that first head coaching job or that first coordinator job, and they're like, wait a minute, I can run power and counter, but I don't know how to handle that new front. I don't know how to tie my passing game, whatever it is. Then you go, the world is huge, and I knew a very simple system, and I knew it kind of well. So look up Dunning-Kruger if you don't know. You're probably somewhere on the incline.
Yeah.
Unless you're listening to this going, I know more than these guys, and then you might be at the top of that cliff.
Yeah, you're at the top of it, yeah.
Which is okay. I've been there. I just left it in the last year. Like, I'm down in the bottom going, oh, there is a lot of football out there that I didn't know.
And you're exactly right. Where you hit that point, if you happen to get a job loaded with talent, you're not going to hit that point until talent goes away.
Right, because whatever you do works.
And then you'll go through a period of time where you blame the kids.
Yeah.
Well, I know what I'm doing, but we don't have the kids.
Right.
And then at some point you figure out, I've got to do this for the next 25 years. I better figure out how to fix the kids.
Yes.
Because I can't just sit around and wait on that Greek god transfer to come in the door every year and fix it all.
That's right.
And you're right, it works on absolutely everything. It's a a universal, it's a natural law. And my first coordinator job, I was 5 years in, and I got hired. I got promoted to coordinator. Might have even been 5, might have been 4. I got promoted to coordinator. I'd done 2 years on JV. Well, those 2 years on JV, they had taken all of the kids that I had.
Right.
So those 2 years, the varsity was all sophomores, freshmen. And so I had the built-in excuse. I knew what I was doing, what they had all taken all my
They
kids.
took all your talent.
Well, then I go and I get the job, and it took me 2 years to accept I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah. There's that. It's exactly. It's what you're saying. It's just you've got to sometimes get that humbling experience.
Well, we talked about with the NFL coaches versus the college.
We do. Yes. So Joe
I have a theory.
has a theory that if you play D1 ball or any level,
Any level
but
college.
specifically those,
except D3. But if you played at a high level D2,
and then
because a high level D2, you're probably getting some looks
Right.
at the next level. If you've had a ton of success in college at any level, but usually D3 is usually an exception. But in D2, D1, FCS, FBS, yeah.
and then you don't make it to the league and let a bunch of other super athletes humble you, you come out thinking you are the best thing since sliced bread. And that, in a coaching world, now you move from playing to coaching, you never lose that.
Yeah.
So you were at the top of the hill for Dunning-Kruger for a very long time because
You never got humbled.
whatever high school system you were in and college system we're in, you think you know those and you think that you're just the best. And then, something has to humble you, and that ego's hard to humble.
And it seems to be the guys who get the free agent tryouts but never get the real shot, they can rationalize in their brain, they never gave me my shot.
Right.
So some of them never got humbled. But if you made it and you walked out there and you saw what an NFL player looks like and what being coached in the NFL is like. Again, I don't know this. I've never done it. I've never been involved. But the coaches I know who came from it, I know guys who played 15 years in the league. I know guys who played 5. I know guys who got a cup of coffee at a couple places, but they got humbled.
Yeah.
At some point, they got humbled because whatever they were was not good enough.
Right.
And eventually coaches will get humbled.
Yeah.
It may be your first coordinator job. It may be your first head job. Maybe
when they're walking you out of the building with a box of your own personal
maybe your
goods,
first
right?
firing. And again, that doesn't always get it either. There are guys who coach for a very long time and their ego is so strong. And I don't know if it's ego, if it's, they just constantly make excuses. There's people that are just like this in life. They're constantly making excuses. It's someone else's fault. It's someone else's fault.
Right.
They never get it. Not many people that are watching this, listening to this, are going to be
Are gonna fit that mold.
So, yeah, I mean, the best thing you can do as a head coach. The best thing you can do is explain all of this to your guys.
Yeah.
Hey, I know where you're at. He's going to think that you don't know. I get lots of young guys who think that the head coach is an old man who doesn't know, right? But give it a shot and have that talk.
Yeah.
It may take, it may not, but this is where we're at. And if you're a younger coach, just try to know what you don't know. Try to, understand that guys that have 30 years of experience and tell you things should be done a certain way, have done it other ways.
Yes.
And, not everybody who's done it for 30 years is doing it the right way, but a lot of them are.
Well, probably time to wrap it up just for resources purposes
For the
here.
camera purposes, yeah.
So, if you need a coordinator you're trying to hire from within, we've covered a couple ways to do that. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. Jump over to join.joedanielfootball.com. You can sign up there with just price your email, get you in the door for, is it $1? Is it
It's $1.
$1. $1 get you 7 days.
Yeah.
and you can look through some of the resources we talked through here today.
We do have free stuff as well for your email address.
Right.
I just don't know exactly what it is because we're recording a little bit
before things get released.
Yeah, we're recording a little bit ahead of time, and I don't know exactly what it'll be.
That's right.
We're trying to knock out a few episodes while we're here in this in the same place.
Yeah. And then athleticspeedmovement.com, you run over there. That's where we've taken, legendary speed coach Del Basquette. We've taken all of his program and put it online for you. And so we can go there and you can sign up for the first year, and you get level 1 and you get your guys fast. And it is a speed and movement program. Biggest question we get is why is it different from everybody else? And the difference is we're not a track sprint program. We're not going to teach your kids how to get out of the blocks and run very, very fast in a straight line. We're going to teach you how to move and cut. We're going to tell your O-linemen how to pull the most efficient way with the best form, and so that they are the fastest they can possibly be. Your
it's
backs
applied to your drills.
That's right. Your backs can cut and move and get around, moving between them linebackers and off blocks, and that's what it's for. It's to make your kids faster at football. It is football specific, can be used in other sports, so it's a great time to get in now. Use it in your track program. Why not? Use it in your basketball, your volleyball, your whatever it is, whatever your kids are doing right now.
Your track program, you'd be doing something. Because by the way, it's not a linear speed program.
Right.
Your 40 times will drop dramatically.
Yes. When you learn how to run.
But it is a benefit, but it's not. It's like a side benefit.
Yeah.
It's not the one. A lot of coaches want some sort of gimmick to see. But we all know at the end of the day, what matters is does this show up on the field?
That's right.
And I can tell you right now, when you show up in your second year of the program and all the grass is shag carpet, that's when you know it works.
The investment was worth it.
First year, you get to go out and you get to play in the short grass. For one more year, this is your last year. By year 2, everybody's got to figure it out. By year 3, you've got animals in the grass, gnomes,
the jungle.
and
an absolute jungle.
Yeah, unless you play a place with all field turf, and then none of this.
There we go. If you want to reach out to me, I'm on Twitter at Coach Chambo. OK, you can reach out to the podcast at the FBCP. Joe is at football info, INFO. You can email me at chamberlainfootballconsulting@gmail.com. Joe is Joe at joedanielfootball.com. We appreciate you guys listening. Last one, I imagine, from AFCA, so we will see you guys back on the webcams before too long.
Oh, the exciting webcams, yep.
There we go.
Yep.
All right, guys. Remember, Coach Simple, play fast, win.
Nailed it.